Welcome back, one and all, to Al Chapo Sports, everyone's least favorite sports show where we do the thinking so you don't have to. Today, we got another installment of Power-5 for 5, so let's just jump right into it. The Pac-12, number 5, I've got Oregon State, who beat Utah this week. Who would have saw that coming? I sure didn't. I was riding very high on Utah, but Oregon State beat them, and therefore they are in. They are ranked team as well, I should mention. Number 4, Washington State. They are 4-0. They are undefeated, and they were on a bye week last week. So nothing really to judge them on. They were on a bye. Moving on. Washington, undefeated also, but at 5-0, whereas Washington State is at 4-0. So that's the only reason I have them ranked higher. Moving on to USC, who did they beat? They beat Colorado in a shootout of a game. They are undefeated, I believe, 5-0? Yes. But this was a close game, which is why USC is taking a backseat to our number 1 team, Oregon, who just absolutely smashed Stanford. Poor guys didn't stand a chance. Dropping from the Pac-12 rankings this week was Utah. Moving on to the ACC. I don't have too much to say here, guys. It's the same 5 teams it's been for, all season now. Just the order shuffles around a little bit. Duke lost to Notre Dame. Tough loss. Sad to see their undefeated streak come to an end. But it's Notre Dame, a top 10 ranked team. I'm not holding it against Duke that bad. Moving on to number 4, UNC. They are 4-0. They were on a bye. Nothing really to speak on there. Number 3, Louisville. They are 5-0. They beat North Carolina State in a very close game. Because of the close nature of the game is why I'm keeping them at number 3 and not in the top 2. Number 2, Miami. They are 4-0. They were also on a bye this week. And Florida State, also undefeated, also 4-0, and also on a bye this week. So no changes there, really. Moving on, we have the Big 12. Big 12, number 5, I have BYU. They beat Cincinnati. They are 4-1. Cincinnati is a conference win, so that looks good for you guys, BYU. You only have 1 loss. You can still make something of your season yet. Number 4, Kansas. Kansas lost to Texas. Their undefeated streak came to an end. I'm not punishing Kansas too much for this in the rankings because, again, their loss was to Texas, one of the front runners right now for the college football playoff. Number 3, we have West Virginia. West Virginia is 4-1. They are 2-0 in the conference, and they beat TCU this past weekend. And TCU is kind of hit and miss. They're all over the board. But they are the national runner-ups, and it still holds a lot of weight, TCU does, whether you beat them or lose to them. So that puts West Virginia at 3. Number 2, we have Oklahoma. Oklahoma defeated Iowa State in an absolutely crushing game. They are looking strong as ever, and boy, am I excited for next weekend. If you catch my wink, where they will be playing none other than Texas, who is also undefeated. They beat Kansas, as previously mentioned. Guys, this Red River rivalry game is going to be bonkers. They're both undefeated. They're both looking very strong. Whoever wins this wins the conference. We all know this. It's just be watching this Saturday. That's all I can say. Dropping from the rankings in the Big 12 was TCU. Moving on to the Big 10. We have at number 5, Rutgers. Rutgers smashed Wagner, a team I've never heard of. They are 4-1, and yeah, that's all I really have to say about Rutgers. Number 4, Iowa. Also 4-1. They beat Michigan State this past weekend. Michigan State is nobody's favorite to win the Big 10 or even make noise, but it is a conference win, and they are 4-1. So, good on you, Iowa. Number 3, we have Ohio State University. I really couldn't put them any higher than this, especially because they were on a bye this past weekend. So nothing to really talk about there. They are 4-0, however. Moving on to number 2, we have Michigan. Michigan smashed poor little Nebraska. They are 5-0, 2-0 in the conference, looking good. And number 1, again, is Penn State, who smashed Northwestern. They are 5-0 and 3-0 in the conference, so slightly better than Michigan, justifying their number one spot in the Big Ten. We'll have to see what happens when all these top three teams start playing each other. No one dropped from rankings in the Big Ten this week. Moving on, lastly, we have the SEC. Now, this will be my most controversial ranking, definitely. Number 5, we have Missouri. Missouri is 5-0, but they're only 1-0 in the conference. They've only played one conference game, and yes, it was a win, hence being undefeated, but it was against Vanderbilt, who is the sick man of the SEC. So, Missouri, good on you guys, but I think you're getting exposed next week. Moving on to number 4, we have Ole Miss. Ole Miss won a shootout against LSU. LSU is a very solid team, guys. And I've been high on Ole Miss all season now, pretty much. And for them to just get an absolute statement and a gutsy win against LSU has them at number 4. But I couldn't put them any higher than that because they lost to number 3, Alabama. Alabama smashed, who did they smash this week? Mississippi State. Mississippi State is no one's favorite to win, but SEC West, they're probably the weakest team in that division of a conference. But Bama is Bama. They're good. They're a Nick Saban team. They're always going to be good. But not as, I can't tout them as highly as the last two teams because they do have a loss on their record. Number 2, Kentucky, the University of Kentucky. Good old UK is 5-0. They are 2-0 in the conference against Vanderbilt and Florida. They absolutely cleaned house with Florida. It was an impressive performance, to say the least. And not giving them too much credit because their first 3 games of the season were pretty weak competition. And then Vanderbilt, of course, the weakest SEC team. But Florida is a solid win. They were a ranked team, and Kentucky, you deserve praise for your 5-0. And you just might, I'm not saying you'll win, but you will challenge our number 1 team, Georgia. Georgia is also 5-0, also 2-0 in the conference. They won against Auburn this past weekend, and it was ugly. Auburn, alongside Mississippi State, is probably the weakest team in the SEC West. So for them to put up a fight against Georgia, not the most promising sign. It shows that if Kentucky plays to their potential, they could upset Georgia. Just like South Carolina took Georgia to the absolute brink a few weeks back. But until then, they are still the number 1 team in the SEC because they are the reigning, defending national champion. Only team to drop from the SEC this week was LSU. So guys, comment down below. Tell me your top 5 teams for every Power 5 conference. Tell me if I got them right. Tell me if I got them wrong. Check out my predictions over on the shorts section of my channel. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.